This is the first presentation on a series of presentations on the Sino-Japanese Wars. For now, I'm only going to be talking about the first Sino-Japanese War for the next few presentations. My name is Sean Han, I'm in class 8B of Huitong School, and today I'll be talking about the start of the war, basically the causes of the war. So I'll be talking about who was involved, like as in which empires or countries, Japan's rapid militarization as well as modernization, China's actions in Korea as well as against Japan, and Japan's retaliation, obviously put in quotation marks. So the Sino-Japanese War, at least the first and the second one, are a series of wars fought between Big Boy China and the island nations of Japan. Now, Qing Dynasty China was very conservative. Almost no reforms for modernization actually happened. Unlike the island nations of Japan, who are actually really good at modernizing, but they actually don't have a good amount of raw materials. In fact, almost all the raw materials that they got were imported through trade from other countries. But they really wanted Korea because Korea had a pretty high cost, a pretty high rich of materials such as coal and iron, as well as probably oil. So they wanted to go inland and conquer everything in Asia. They didn't approve of Western colonies inside Asia, but they went against colonization. They just didn't want Western ones. They just wanted Japanese ones inside Asia. And speaking of which, the middle country, Korea, is the one that's stuck in the crossfire between those two. China actually treated Korea as if it was its great pet, and they had a pretty strong influence on Korea, and the Chinese wanted to stay it that way. However, the Japanese wanted to go ahead and lure Korea away from the Chinese, and basically said, hey, why don't you go be independent, be very modern, you guys shouldn't be that corrupt and conservative like China too. That's basically what the Japanese said to the Koreans. One key difference is that the Chinese are stuck with cannons and junks, while the Japanese, the land of the rising sun as they called it, were really, really good at modernizing. They're like that person who decides to suddenly go to the gym and learn like 5 languages and create his own rock band. As mentioned earlier, their main problem was that they didn't have the raw materials they needed to do the modernization. And if they needed it, they needed to import it from somewhere, but trading was very, very expensive. And so they attacked Korea and made them open themselves up to the Japanese and other world, but mainly the Japanese, and make them declare themselves independent from China. Independence, what a very American thing to say. At the time, it was the Joseon Dynasty. It was the Joseon Dynasty, and they basically had this emperor. Some pro-Japanese people in Korea decided they wanted to have nothing with this emperor. But that failed, mainly because this Chinese general, Yuan Shikai, well, in English, Yuan Shikai, went ahead and saved the emperor, which involved killing a few Japanese guards. Obviously, the Japanese weren't just not going to do anything. They weren't like, we're not going to do anything here. No, they were going to do something. But then this happened. The Liito Convention happened, which, well, took away all causes of war. Basically saying China and Japan are barred, or actually banned, from having any soldiers inside of Korea. That basically means, Korea, you can do whatever you want, just don't listen to China, don't listen to Japan, unless you want to. Except that last part, unless you want to, wasn't added in the treaty. In 1894, the world realized that Japan was not going to, well, go ahead and compromise that easily. In fact, their sphere of influence on the young adolescents inside their own country actually became stronger, and, well, they basically had a bunch of nationalism, patriotism inside their country. This guy, the leader of a coup in 1884 against the Korean government named Kim Il-sung, was lured to Shanghai, and there he was assassinated, probably by agents of Yuan Shikai. Well, the Japanese were outraged. Then the Donghak rebellion happened, and the Korean government were like, okay, China, could you come here and help us fight this rebellion? China's like, okay, and they did. The Japanese were outraged. Eventually, the Japanese decided that this was against the legal treaty, so they were going to go against it too, and they sent 8,000 soldiers to Korea. When the Chinese tried to reinforce their own soldiers, the Japanese sank this British steamer called the Kaohsiung, mainly because it was carrying reinforcements, which further inflamed the situation. And that's the end of my presentation today. Here are some key points you can take from this presentation. So the players, well, technically the influencers of this battle, of this war, was China, Japan, and technically Korea. Also, Korea was just caught in the middle. China was very conservative in its reforms and wanted to keep its influence in Korea, but Japan was very modernized and suddenly had a Western-style military. They went to Korea because they had a lot of resources. Some pro-Japanese reformers attempted to overthrow the government, and General Yuan Shikai basically went to him to save the king, killing several Japanese guards in the process. And then the Lee-Ito Convention happened, and that basically meant no war was supposed to happen. Kim Ok-gun was assassinated in Shanghai, probably by Yuan Shikai. And then the Tongak Peasants' Rebellion happened. China helped destroy it, but then the Japanese fought against that. The Chinese went against the Lee-Ito Convention. So they sent 8,000 soldiers, and then they sank the Kaohsiung, which was a British steamer because it had Chinese reinforcements. So thank you for watching my presentation, and I'll see you in the next one.